There's many different styles of Iaido, and what I want to do is I want to give you some principles that you can apply to most every style of Iaido. Some styles of Iaido, I notice, they don't use their hips really to drive their weapon or to pressure their technique. But in this instance, I'm going to give you some good tips that'll help you learn to use the pressure of your center to move your weapon. So the first thing is standing up, and most people just kind of stand up from here. They'll just and then do whatever they're going to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use your center to press and stand up. So if I'm in this position, instead of just lifting from my legs and just lifting straight up, what you can do is you can start to squeeze. See, as I squeeze my center, I already naturally come up a little. So from the side, I'm going to show the same thing. So again, I can bend forward and lift, or just lift from this position, and I'm not really compressing my center. So what you can do is from this position, you can start squeezing, and that's going to lift me up a little bit. And then I use that lift, and I feel like someone's pulling from the top of my head. Instead of me lifting my body, I feel like I'm being pulled up. So squeeze, pull up, and then you can do your beginning movement. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to show that same principle of pressuring with your center to actually do the draw and the cut for Iaido. And this can be applied to different cuts and everything. I'm just going to show the basic, simple cut. But so again, I'm going to start squeezing, brings my hands together, and then as I squeeze, it's going to lift. Now, instead of getting to here, and a lot of people, when they bring their foot out, they draw their center back ever so slightly. So they draw like this, and then they try to come out, okay? And that's okay, but what you want to do is you want to work to where you are pushing the weapon out. Okay, so from this position, as I squeeze, see, I'm pushing my center out the whole time. And then as I push my center out, I just add my weapon to that. And then when you bring your foot up, instead of pulling your center back, when you bring your foot up, push, and then as I move my hip forward, I'm going to continue to expand the hip. And then from that point, you're stable, you're pressing into that weapon, and you haven't ever pulled your hips back when you're going up. Now let me contrast that with, it's okay for beginners to do it a little different to get stability. So you're here, you stabilize, and then you make a stable center, and that's okay. But the idea is you don't want to pull your center back as you're drawing your sword forward. You want to be pushing both of them at the same time, so you're pressing the tip of the sword with your center control. Okay, let me do the same position from the side, because I think it'll be easier to see from the side. So again, when I squeeze together, that naturally starts to lift me up off the ground. So squeeze, and I'm coming forward. Okay, again, when I draw my sword, I don't want to pull my center back to draw. So as I'm going forward, I'm bringing my foot out as I'm starting to bring my sword out, and then I'm going to push my sword out as I'm bringing the tip. So my hips actually push my sword into position, and then it stops. So I have just as much power pushing forward as I began with. So I never retreated my center into this position. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the cut, because the cut's probably the hardest thing to do without pulling your center back to make the cut. And I think you can really tell how skilled somebody is by how they cut and how they can keep their center pressure into their cut. So if I'm in this position and I've got my center pressure loaded, there's some styles that I know, they just come back, they keep their center pushed forward, but it's stable, it does not move, and then they cut from here, okay? But other styles, I think this is a little better, is you push forward as you bring your sword over your head. And then you get in this position, your center is still pushing forward. And then when you cut, you keep the pressure forward and you try to equal the pressure coming down from the ground into the tip of the weapon that is coming forward into the weapon, so that they equal each other out. So the cut, in theory, the power coming up and the power going out are going to equal out as you get to the tip. So as I push out, it's going to extend into that cut. And then you keep that cut, and then you have maybe a position like this. You keep that pressure, keep that pressure, keep that pressure, maybe coming back into this position. Okay, so you always are keeping that pressure forward. Okay, the same thing applies to Ta-Tahis, and Ta-Tahis is a little bit harder to do if you're not doing that pressure style. But in here, you're in this different position. Some people have their knee farther up. I have mine laid down a little bit. But basically, I'm seated into this position. So when I go to start, I push my center forward over this foot, and then you can come out, okay? So the same thing applies from standing up from Ta-Tahis, that you don't want to get in this position. And then if you're sitting back, it's hard to get up out of this position. So the idea is when you sit down, you want to keep that pressure forward, pressure forward. You're going to sit down almost with my pressure already forward. So when I go to stand up, I just extend my center forward. Okay, so that's a few principles that you can apply to just basics in Iaido, but you can apply those concepts throughout all the katas in Iaido, just like I apply these same concepts to Katori Shinto Ryu.